G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it.
Well, Brian, thanks so much for making the time to catch up today. As we were talking before, I mentioned I really like this topic around developing books and content because it's a strategy I think a lot of people don't have a lot of confidence in and don't really understand. And I think it's going to be a really useful conversation today and that I'm looking forward to. Maybe as a starting point, could I get you to give a little bit of an introduction as to sort of who you are and maybe a little bit of background as to how you got into this field?
Sure. So for those who don't know who I am or what I do, I host a radio show called Success Profiles Radio every single week online, and you can find it on Apple Podcasts, iTunes. I've been doing it for over 11 years, over 500 hour-long episodes. I also publish a magazine called Ultimate Achievers Magazine, which is a monthly digital magazine, and I help people write their books. Now, I haven't been doing all these things forever. In fact, I would probably go back to when I was a teacher. I did teach public speaking and English composition in college, and that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that. And those were required classes, and so I had to try and make it as fun as I could. And I do believe that helping people to share their message is really, really important, because I think being able to communicate in writing and by speaking is really, really critical. And those are skills I think that are underserved or maybe underdeveloped. I mean, a lot of people think they can't or that they aren't good enough. And I'm here to say that, with a lot of practice, you can get really good at whatever you really want to get a lot of good at. So that's what I did. And I ended up working in some call centers too for quite a while too. So I called people on the phone for many different reasons and got promoted out of some of those roles into payroll and into training and into supervisory roles. And so I was in that world for a while. And now I work full time, and I have been full time for probably the last 6 or 7 years. And I wouldn't go back to working for someone else. There's nothing wrong with it, but I find that I'm happier when I get to set my own rules and set my own schedule.
Yeah. I've got a lot of listeners who can relate to that, I think. So that's
for sure.
So tell me, who are the typical customers that you work with, and why do they come to you? What's typically the problem they're trying to solve?
Yeah, I work with established entrepreneurs who want to get their message out to the world in a bigger way. A lot of clients that I work with are entrepreneurs who want to use a book to leverage their business or to create other streams of income in their business. Now, a lot of people think, I want to sell 1 million copies of my book and get rich. You might, or most likely won't, sell that many copies of your book. So what you have to think about instead is, how can I spin this book into something else? You can spin this book into coaching programs. You can use your book to get people to hire you to speak on their stage. You can use this book to promote an event that you're doing. I'll give you a couple of examples. Back in the 90s, Robert Kiyosaki and Sharon Lechter co-wrote a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And in the book, Robert Kiyosaki's main goal was to sell cash flow, his game cash flow. And that was probably a $200 item. So you can make a lot more money selling a $200 item than you can selling a $15 book. And so that was his goal. And he did sprinkle very generously throughout references to cash flow. And at the end of the book, there was a page where you could order the book. Another example, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker talked about how you can view money differently and how millionaires think. And he very generously sprinkled references to his Millionaire Mind Intensive, which is a 3-day event that he lets readers go to for free. Now, he doesn't conduct these himself anymore, but his team will conduct those all over North America, all over the world. I'm sure they get to Australia once in a while. But you come to this event for free, and they will, at the end of every session, sell a different program. So it works out financially for them very well to let you come for free because they will more than make their money back out of it. But they used the book as a free, well, you buy the book, but they use the book as a way to get you to come to his event whereby they can sell lots of programs, coaching programs, quantum leap programs, and find lots of people to help on an advanced level. So for you, what is it that you can parlay your book into that you can roll people over into later?
That's a really interesting way of looking at it. So it's the book is a piece of leverage to move people.
It's the beginning. It's not the end. It's not the complete explanation of your journey. And yay, we're done. What do you want people to do, think, believe, or act differently than they do right now?
Yeah.
And how can you move them from not knowing you at all very well to, yes, I trust you, I know you, I like you, and I want to work with you and learn what you do?
Yeah. Excellent. So tell me a bit about the process that you take your clients through. How does it typically unfold? What are the steps?
Sure. A lot of people come to me saying, I've always had a goal to write a book. I'm not sure what I want my book to be about. And so that's usually our first discussion. And I'll ask,
I can imagine.
Why do you want to write a book?
Yeah. Okay.
I want to tell my story. Okay. Snooze.
Yeah.
Everyone says they want to write their story, and that's fine. Your friends and family will buy your book by default, but what about all the billions of other people in the world? Why do they want to read your book? Oh. And so then it becomes a conversation about how can we make this relevant? And if they are entrepreneurs, we talk about leveraging their book in their business, but sometimes people don't want their book to be about their business. Sometimes they just want it to be a little more autobiographical and get to know me, and I'll give my book away. Okay, that's fine. And so one book, the autobiographical piece, is for general audience usually, and the business book is more for a smaller subset. And so if someone has more than one book in their minds, I'll ask them, which audience do you want to talk to first? And their answer will tell me which book we work with first. And sometimes people get confused about, what they want to write about because they have so many ideas in their head and they're not sure how to reconcile it all. And sometimes I might suggest that you may have ideas for more than one book swimming around in your head at once. And so we isolate and figure out which one are we doing first. And we come up with a structure. I have my client figure out what stories they want to tell, because it's not just about telling your story. It's about having a structure for your book and fitting the stories within that structure. A lot of people just want to tell their stories and hopefully you'll get the point. Well, don't make the reader work that hard, because if they're just reading a bunch of random stories, they might ask themselves, where's this going? It's like going to a movie and not really having any idea what's happening or where it's going or what the purpose is. After a while, a confused customer will never buy anything from you. So if you put your reader in a position where they're confused and they don't know where you're going, they'll just give up, because they have so many other things they can do with their time. So we figure out how to organize it, and then we do recorded sessions, and I'll do interviews, and that's what I have to work with.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So can you give me a couple of examples of perhaps some of the more successful outcomes you've helped people to create?
Yeah. I have one client who is an expert in LinkedIn, and he helps his clients generate leads and sales in LinkedIn. Now, his main niche is network marketing. So what we did, and this was an unusual case, he created a course that he wanted to convert into a book that he could use to redirect outsiders to his course. So that was a very interesting workaround. So we used his course to create the book, and having that book created extra authority for him. He gets keynote speeches with huge companies here in the US, and he teaches his corporate clients how to use LinkedIn to generate leads and sales and create relationships. And he talked about messaging and when to message and when to follow up and how to find leads and how to know who to request or accept as connections on LinkedIn. I think the maximum number of connections you could have is 30,000. I think he has the maximum number of connections.
Find it hard to define a clear strategy, then communicate it and execute it alongside the rest of your team? or you currently don't work, a simple quarterly strategic plan to boost your team's performance, our Business Growth Formula online course is perfect for small business owners with 5 to 30 team members wanting to grow. We share the mindsets, habits, and tools to be a legendary leader in your business. growsmallbusiness.com.
So let me throw I guess, slightly, in my mind, an odd example for a book at you. But let's say I've got a friend who runs a gutter cleaning business. So he goes to primarily residential addresses and cleans out gutters full of leaves and mud and debris, and make sure the gutters are clean and working. How would you apply, I guess, the concept of a book to a business like that? And is it applicable?
Yes, absolutely. And it depends on how you position yourself in your book. I would not necessarily advocate writing a how-to, because you can look that up for free on YouTube, and it's boring. It's like writing a car manual. Who wants to do that? And who will read it, right? So instead, what you do is you think about, what are the kinds of questions that people ask you in your industry? And how would you answer those questions? That can help you structure your book. If you did, let's just say, a book about how you started your business, what are some of the key characteristics and qualities that you had to incorporate to build your business, and how you keep your business going, and how you build your business, and how you build relationships with customers? You can sprinkle situations, stories of how you've worked with clients, for better or worse, into that, and then they can get a sense of, oh, okay, this is my situation. This is how he or she handled that. So you can make it interesting. You can make a relatively bland topic interesting just by the way that you talk about it.
Yeah, okay. And I think that's a really interesting way to think about it, in terms of answering the questions that your clients are often asking you. It seems to be such a relevant way to think about, I guess, the content that's going to be useful. So great. So I guess, Brian, as we sort of come towards the back end of this discussion, one question we always put to our interviewees is, what's one piece of advice you'd have for small business owners that perhaps they can go away and start implementing, as soon as they finish this podcast?
Yeah. Create content. Create content so that people know who you are. You have to keep yourself out there all the time. And if you think that your audience will get bored with it, I would say no, because with Facebook, with Twitter, with LinkedIn, the algorithms are such that the same person is not going to see every time you post. In fact, it might be the 4th or 5th day in a row before someone sees you once. So keep posting content and repurpose content you've already created. Let's just say that you have written a book. You can create articles or blog posts based off of ideas in your book, and you could go on for at least a month if you posted something every day. Conversely, if you were posting something every day around a similar topic, for example, let's say you're a sales expert, you do 100 blog posts, you've got enough for a book. That's what Jeffrey Gitomer did before he wrote the Sales Bible way back in the day.
Yeah.
Create content, repurpose content, and you're golden. People will start to see who you are and what you're about.
Yeah, no, that's very, very sensible advice. Particularly the repurposing, it just makes so much sense. You've probably said some smart stuff before. Why not reuse that and
right?
Make it...
And you might forget that you said the smart thing. So you go back and read it, and you think, "Oh gosh, did I say that?" Yeah, you did.
Yeah. Good point. So tell me, Brian, I guess if anyone listening today feels like they could get some value from a further discussion with you, how do we best find you? How can we reach out to you?
You can book a call with me, book at callwithbrian.com.
Callwithbrian.com.
Yep. And you can visit my site, writeabookforyou.com, spelled all the way out, writeabookforyou.com. And at the bottom of that page is also a link to my calendar.
Brilliant. Oh, that sounds easy, and we'll make sure we put that in the show notes as well and make it easy for people to find. So, Brian, that was excellent. I really appreciate your time. Some really good things to think about there, and you've suddenly made the thought of putting together a book a lot less daunting. So, really appreciate the discussion.
Thank you so much for having me, Rob.
Thanks, Brian.
And for our audience, we would greatly appreciate a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. More reviews means we bubble up higher in iTunes, etc. So more business owners looking for podcast help with their growth will find us.